Hey everyone, it's LiteCast. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Adobe Premiere Pro CC preferences. Now the preferences are pretty similar across all the Adobe products, but we're going to use it specifically for the Premiere Pro series just because, this is what we're doing it for. The reason why we're talking about preferences is because we want to be able to troubleshoot problems ahead of time so that when we run into them, we know how to fix them. And particularly, we're going to be talking about a few preference settings that people commonly ask us about and people run into, that I've run into myself in the past. One of which is setting up my audio hardware. So when I'm using multiple audio devices, right now I have 3 audio devices. One is for my USB output, my Yeti microphone, and then also my speakers. I might have my default playback settings to my microphone, but I might be wanting to listen to the device or listen to the program on my speakers. I have to make sure that my speakers are set properly and set to my speakers, not my microphone. But let's say I'm listening to headphones, which is what I'm doing right now, and I have my YouTube video playing and I'm listening through my speakers or through my headphones. If I want to play back a piece of video on here, it won't play back from my headphones. It'll actually just play back from my speakers. And the reason being is because if you go to audio hardware, it's set to my speakers, so you have to change it to the microphone and the headset. It'll pop up here saying device changes can modify channel mappings, which is correct, and you want to make sure that you know what you're doing when you're doing this. It's better to do this before you start a project so you don't mess up your channels and stuff like that. And you want to click yes, and now it's going to output all of this to your headphones. For now, we're going to keep it to our speaker settings because that's the best place for us to be able to listen to audio and track it, especially if we're using mixer sound and we're doing external audio mixing. And then the next thing we want to talk about is media cache. Media cache is important because if you start working on a lot of projects, you'll start to notice that a cache is building up in your roaming app data. You'll notice that if you go to this location, see users, Corleone, app data, roaming app, Adobe Common, there's probably going to be a lot of files that are going to be there, and that's going to take up a lot of space, especially if you have files that are like 6 months old. They're probably irrelevant at this point, so you don't have to keep them too long. You can automatically delete cache files older than 90 days after it reaches a certain length. And as you can tell, it could get pretty lengthy depending on the size of the projects you're working on at any given time. We don't set it to delete automatically, we just clear it on our own because we don't work with those big kinds of files often. So for now, you can just click delete unused and it'll just keep the files that you're working with currently and delete all the files that you're not working with anymore. And you can change your location for your media cache as well. Maybe if your media cache is a lot larger than your hard drive, you can move it to an external location, like an external hard drive with like 10 terabytes of space and stuff like that. The next thing we're going to talk about is our memory. Memory is important for your program so that when you're doing scrubbing through the timeline and you want to be able to play back footage, you want to be able to see things a lot more real time. Well, the reason why it's slow if you're having problems is because you have your memory set really low for the program. It might be set to like 1 or 2 gigabytes, and you might need 10 or 11 gigabytes like I have to be able to scrub through footage. Luckily, my computer has 16 gigabytes of RAM installed in it, and I have enough RAM to run programs off of Premiere, like YouTube, or maybe if I'm playing a game for no reason at all. I can play them without having to worry about it lagging my computer, and I have it set specifically. I don't recommend playing a video game while you're rendering. I don't know why you'd be doing it anyway. It pulls away from your workflow and ruins your process. So set your RAM properly. When you change this, it changes the ratio. I keep it at 5 gigabytes just for our sake. And that's pretty much it. You don't really need to worry about too much other things. Maybe you want to change your general settings because when you go to your bins, you notice that if you double click your bins, it'll open up in a new window. If you hold down Control and double click, it'll open up in place. And if you click Alt, it'll open up a new tab. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about when you do that. If you hold double click or you just double click, it'll open up a new window. Hold down Control, double click, it'll open up in place. To get out of that window, you have to go back here and click this button, and it'll take you out of the window. And you'll notice that you can't go back even further. This is the farthest you can go back. Make sure you aren't kind of accidentally making folders and bins within folders and bins because it gets really hectic and nonsensical. So you don't have to, you don't want to have to like, oh no, where did my raw files go? Oh, it's actually in a folder within a folder within a folder. That's too excessive. You might want to do that if you're working on a big project. Don't recommend it for our sake. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, click subscribe and hit the notifications bell to stay up to date. And until next time, this is LiteCast, and see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.